Here.
Commissioner Bernard.
Here.
Vice Mayor Marino.
Here.
Mayor Sachs.
Here.
Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good. We have a quorum. I'd like to ask Commissioner Bernard to do the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Father, help us to be sensitive to what is happening to those around us. Make us aware of the concerns of others and guide us through the decision process that is before us today. Give us the strength and courage to do what is best for all those who come before us. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. The schedule for today is that we will commence immediately, and then, let the record reflect Commissioner Barnett is present, that we will take a hard break at 11:30 so that we can respect the League of Cities dinner, or lunch, actually. Do I sound like I'm hungry? Lunch at 12. We will resume at 1:30 sharp. So we will proceed today now till 11:30. We will come back at 1:30 with the rest of the calendar. All right, do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda? Ms. Baker.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board. We do not have any additions, deletions, or substitutions today.
I'd like to have a vote to adopt the agenda as presented. I have a first by Commissioner Baxter, a second by the Vice Mayor. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously. Now going on to the regular agenda, which appears on page 2. And I believe this is from the clerk of the court, the clerk and comptroller, and the staff recommends a motion to receive and file. Do I have first by the Vice Mayor, a second by Commissioner Barnett? All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously. And that's that is 3A1. And now we're going to proceed to our workshop session. And we are going to start with the 2024 Hurricane Preparedness Briefing. And I look forward to this, especially in light of the Governor's Hurricane Conference, which has been here for the 4th year here in Palm Beach County. The state of Florida has designated Palm Beach County as the site for the state of Florida's Governor's Hurricane Conference. And Mr. Bonlaren, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Administrator Baker. We're joined today at the table by Stephanie Shanahan, our Director of Public Safety, Mary Blakeney, who is our Director of the Division of Emergency Management, and it may be a face that some of you are not as familiar with, but maybe a name that you are, which is Rob Moyeda. And Rob is the meteorologist in charge at the National Weather Service. So we are really excited to have one of the foremost experts and one of the most important partners to the county in terms of working through some of our disasters and our storms with us here to present with staff. And we wanted to give you a disaster preparedness update and our storm season report as we start the storm season of 2024. And we'll talk about a little bit more than storms, but with that, I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie to begin.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So for today's agenda, we're going to give an overview of our emergency management operations and the staffing, as well as talk about our 12 core hazards. Then we're going to dive into our 2023 hurricane season and review and what our 2024 predictions are going to be, as well as talk about our preparedness cycle and how we prepare our community. And then also, lastly, how you can help. So the Division of Emergency Management, it's all about teamwork when it comes to this division. Our mission is to be a world-class emergency management agency, keeping our community safe and resilient by working together with our partners and the public as a team. We are not just the hurricane people. We spend the year addressing our core hazards, which include your natural hazards, technological hazards, and human-caused hazards, by planning with stakeholder agencies, training responders and county employees, and exercising our entire emergency management system. Our structure is designed around being the organizing agency for communication, coordination, and collaboration. Yet we know this time of year, the upcoming hurricane season is on everyone's mind. So let's take some time and discuss what we can all do to be prepared. Now I'd like to turn it over to Mary Blakeney, our Director of the Division of Emergency Management.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and Administrator Baker. We're pleased to have the support of all the resources within Palm Beach County to help us plan, respond, and recover from disasters. Our executive policy group plays a key role in providing policy direction for our incident commander when we activate, who is Ms. Virginia Baker. This policy direction sets into motion the tremendous work of our stakeholders. We rely on all county departments, as well as numerous state, federal, nonprofit agencies to help us prepare, respond, and recover. The 2023 season was forecast to be a near normal hurricane season, and Palm Beach County was spared from any activations that most storms remained well east of the mainland. The 2023 season saw one landfalling hurricane in Florida, which was Hurricane Idalia. As Tropical Storm Idalia crossed the western tip of Cuba on Monday night, it would rapidly intensify into a major hurricane on Tuesday before the eventual landfall near Keaton Beach just before 8 a.m. on Wednesday. Hurricane Idalia made landfall on August 30th with maximum sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. This was the first major hurricane on record to make landfall in this portion of the Big Bend. There was extreme tree and structure damage from the Florida coast well into Georgia. There was devastating storm surge of 7 to 12 feet across coastal Taylor and Dixie counties as it moved ashore during low tide, and if not for that, storm surge values could have been easily 3 to 4 feet higher had Idalia moved onshore only 4 to 6 hours later during high tide. This year, Dr. Phil Klotzbach from Colorado State University has predicted 23 named storms, 11 hurricanes, and 5 intense hurricanes. The National Hurricane Center will release predictions this Thursday, but it only takes one. We need to be prepared, and we need to be ready to respond every day of the year, regardless of seasonal forecast and regardless of the hazard. As part of this preparedness, we take pride in our network of emergency managers in the state of Florida, our stakeholders, and our partners. Two major partners we work with are the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service Miami office. We are honored to have our meteorologist in charge, Mr. Rob Moyeda, here today, and a member of our team to provide us vital information when we activate. Now I would like to turn it over to Rob.
Good morning, Madam Mayor. Good morning, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and Administrator Baker. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Of course, we're talking about hurricanes, not a pleasant topic, but something that we certainly have to be, of course, ready for, being here in South Florida. So go to the slides there. Since actually from 2017 to 2021, we've had 20 hurricanes that have made landfall in the United States, and that actually doesn't include Hurricane Ian in 2022, which made landfall in Southwest Florida, as we unfortunately remember, and also Hurricane Idalia, as Mary mentioned last year, that made landfall in North Florida. So, we've certainly had quite a bit of activity in the United States or landfalls, and that, of course, has included Florida. 11 of those have been major hurricanes at landfall, Category 3 or higher. Now, this slide is really important because not every storm is going to give us a lot of lead time. Yes, we've had many hurricanes that have affected Florida, in which we've been able to track those storms for days and days as they form out in the eastern Atlantic. But we've had a number, in fact, the 10 strongest hurricanes to make landfall in the United States, again, going back to the early 20th century, all 10 of those, all but one of those, were tropical storms 3 days before landfall. So if you think about it, 3 days before landfall, they were tropical storms, maybe with maximum sustained winds of 50, 60 miles an hour, and they eventually made landfall in the United States as Category 4s or 5s. We're talking winds of 140 miles an hour or higher, and they did so they strengthened in a very short period of time. This is something that we call, meteorologists refer to as rapid intensification. It's something that's happening with a bit more frequency over the last, let's say, over the last decade. So it's something we have to be aware of. We certainly hope that this doesn't happen here or anywhere for that matter, but we have to be ready for that possibility because several of these 10 strongest hurricanes that went through this rapid intensification phase hit Florida. So we have to be ready. Sometimes only have a couple of days to get ready, and the impacts can start to be felt 12 or even more hours before landfall. So that's why we can't wait for that preparedness. We need to be prepared at the beginning of the season, and of course, maintain that level of preparedness throughout the season. Now, we've been really fortunate here in Palm Beach County. You look at this slide here, the circle around Palm Beach County, that's a roughly 60-mile radius. So those are all the hurricanes that have passed within that 60-mile zone. However, if you look closely, very few of those have actually tracked directly over Palm Beach County. So we've had several near misses over the last several years, but fortunately, no direct hits. But we can't, we certainly have been extremely lucky. But sooner or later, our history alone tells us that we have been hit in the past, and we're certainly going to get hit again at some point in the future. So it's very important that our residents know if they live within an evacuation zone. Certainly, the message is to know their zone. And the reason we want people to know their zone is because of the threat of storm surge. Being a coastal community, storm surge is in fact, the most dangerous impact historically from landfalling hurricanes in the United States. So these hurricane evacuation zones have been identified based on the risk of storm surge. We have models that can project what areas are vulnerable to storm surge based on proximity to the coast and also the elevation of that area. The emergency managers issue evacuation orders due to anticipated storm surge, not wind. The only exception to that is for people living in manufactured homes or residents who are prone to rainfall flooding or inland flooding, as we call it. So storm surge is the rising coastal water associated with tropical storms and hurricanes as they make landfall, and it's the abnormal rise of water beyond that of a normal high tide, which is pushed by the storm towards the shore, and then it piles up near and then along the coast. So that this rise in water level can cause extreme flooding in coastal areas, particularly when that timing of the storm surge coincides with the normal high tide. So we can get storm tides here in Palm Beach County from a major hurricane that could be as high as 6 to 9 feet above ground. That's not above sea level necessarily. It's above ground level, wherever that ground is, or however high that ground level is above sea level. And then you have waves on top of that storm surge, which could make the water even deeper and, of course, much more turbulent and potentially destructive as those waves crash and batter buildings and structures along the coastline. So, most casualties during tropical storms and hurricanes occur as a result of storm surge and flooding. So, contrary to popular belief, emergency managers evacuate to coastal regions for storm surge, not because of the wind speeds. In general, high winds do not lead to casualties in storms. Rather, nearly half of the fatalities attributed to tropical cyclones are caused by storm surge and inland flooding. So that's why we always say, hide from the wind, run from the water. And so we have a video here that this is a prototype that the National Weather Service is testing out, where we're trying to, by visualizing what the storm surge could look like, could help people understand the real threat of surge and hopefully motivate them to take the right actions and evacuate if
Is a
told to do
hurricane
so.
heading towards your area? If so, how do you know if you're at risk from storm surge? You can find out by looking at the potential storm surge flooding map. It provides a reasonable worst-case scenario during a specific storm, showing how high the water may rise in your neighborhood. Here's a hypothetical situation for a storm impacting the Miami area. If you live in an area highlighted in yellow, you should plan for more than 3 feet of moving water above the ground. This much water can carry away vehicles and block escape routes. In areas highlighted in orange, 6 feet of water can damage structures and roads, cutting areas off from emergency services. In areas highlighted in red, 9 feet of water can be catastrophic, with areas uninhabitable for weeks. Regardless of the amount of storm surge you may face, always follow the guidance of local officials to help ensure your safety.
To show other areas. So hopefully we'll be able to do this to show a prototype or show this visualization for Palm Beach County. But the colors that you saw on that map, or the storm surge potential flooding map, that's included in the National Hurricane Center's forecast package. Every forecast that they issue, they include those graphics. And they're color-coded so that we can better understand, what the levels are and what those levels mean. In other words, what's the potential impact or damage or threat from those water levels. So as you get over 3 feet, that starts becoming life-threatening. And then certainly once you get above 6 feet, that becomes really life-threatening. And then, above 9 feet is pretty much, we're talking potentially catastrophic storm surge damage. So the goal here is for people to understand what the storm surge actually means. Storm surge is not it's not something that many people experience. It's very limited in area where it does happen, but where it does, it can be potentially very destructive and unfortunately also very deadly. One big change that we're doing this year that we're going to be providing by the middle of the hurricane season, right around August 15th or so, is we're going to be displaying this forecast map on the National Hurricane Center website. And we're calling it the experimental cone graphic. So, we're all familiar with the forecast cone. So this is the same thing, except what we're adding here, we're adding the wind watches and the wind warnings for inland areas. As we know, here in Florida especially, the wind threat from hurricanes doesn't just stop right at the beach. They spread inland. So we want to make sure that people understand, even if you live 5, 10, 15, 20 miles inland, that there is still a significant threat from wind associated with landfalling or hurricanes that are moving across South Florida. So by showing this map that has the cone, that graphic that we're all familiar with, but then on top of that, putting the areas that are under wind watches and wind warnings, for example, like a hurricane warning, people will be able to better understand what their particular threat is from the wind, regardless of where that track is, regardless of where the cone is. The impacts from tropical storms and hurricanes extend well beyond that cone. The cone is only intended to depict where the center of the storm is more likely to be. But storms are very large, so those hurricane force winds can extend sometimes well over 60, 80 miles away from the center of that storm. So this graphic will hopefully, the goal of this graphic is for people to better understand what their particular wind threat is, regardless of what the forecast track of that storm is. And then finally, the last thing I'm going to bring up is we need to keep we need to keep a really close eye on the forecasts, of course. We all know that. So it's really important that when emergency management issues evacuation orders, that people take action and evacuate. When a storm is approaching, it's important, again, we need to remain aware of each and every forecast change. So we're urging residents not to anchor or make decisions solely off of old forecasts. Here's an example of what a minor shift in the track of the storm can represent. So let's say, for example, we have a storm that's moving parallel to the Florida Peninsula. So, let's say in this example here, the storm is moving north, or paralleling the peninsula. So if it stays far enough offshore, then the threat will be limited, of course, to areas limited to the coastline, or limited or away from the coastline. However, let's say, for example, the track of the storm shifts even only 20 miles initially, just a very slight shift, which is not 20 miles is not a big shift when you're talking about a large system like a hurricane. That 20-mile shift can eventually translate to 120, 125 miles along a coastline. So that's why we want people to really, really pay attention to the forecasts. A 20-mile shift prior to landfall can change the impacts of the landfall location by hundreds of miles. And these slight shifts, or sometimes you hear them referred to as wiggles, in a forecast can drastically affect impacts to our community. So it's really important to be informed at all times and make sure that we're listening to emergency management officials. All right, so with that, I'll pass it back to Mary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. So based on track intensity and expected surge of an approaching storm, we have the ability to select evacuation zones and order individuals to evacuate. In Palm Beach County, we have 6 evacuation zones. Zone A consists of residents living within manufactured and mobile homes, those that live in flood-prone areas, and those that feel that their resident could be compromised if they know they have, for example, a bad roof. Those are the individuals we would want to evacuate during Zone A. Zone B through E are coastal areas and are impacted by inland flooding due to storm surge being pushed into inland waters. And then Zone L is located around Lake Okeechobee and would be evacuated in the event there would be models forecasting any overtopping of water over the dike surrounding the lake. Our residents need to know today if they live in an evacuation zone. If you are told to evacuate, you need to take immediate action and do so. There will be a point in time when normal emergency response agencies will stop due to the hazards of the storm. So if told to evacuate, do so. We have the ability to open a total of 15 general population shelters, 2 special needs shelter locations, and 2 pet-friendly shelter locations. Our residents should listen to announcements for shelter openings, as all shelters may not be opened at the same time. Special needs shelters are for residents with certain medical conditions. These shelters require residents pre-register and have a caregiver. To register, residents can complete an application online at readypbc.com or contact emergency management at 561-712-6400. For residents required to evacuate who have a pet, they can pre-register for the pet-friendly shelter directly through Palm Beach County Animal Care and Control website or visit readypbc.com for more information. Even with robust preparedness measures, our residents rely on us for emergency shelters as well as other countywide disaster functions that are a critical component of our emergency response system. The Employee Disaster Response Program, also known as EDRP, assists in identifying county employees and their skill sets and match them with a disaster-related role. The EDRP can be used for any type of hazard or emergency and provides clear assignments and training for our employees. The breakdown of county employees is shown in the table on the screen. While there are over 4,000 employees with department-specific disaster responsibilities as part of their job, we currently have close to 1,400 employees enrolled and trained to serve in our community in a variety of other disaster essential roles. Within the EDRP, program department essential staff continue to have vital disaster responsibilities. Some examples of disaster essential staff roles include water utility plant operators who maintain critical water utility operations before, during, and after the storm has passed. Fire rescue staff who continue to respond until it is no longer safe to do so, and then resume operations immediately when winds subside. Facilities development staff who prepare our county facilities for the approaching storm, ensure critical systems are operational during the storm, and immediately conduct damage assessments after the storm. Our planning, zoning, and building staff who are staged and ready to conduct immediate damage assessments when safe to do so, and engineering staff conducting what we call the initial first push of debris from our roads. Ensure bridges are operational, and resume operations of countywide traffic signals. One of the largest contingencies of county staff working within one of our hurricane risk shelters locations. That takes up a large contingency of countywide staff, as you'll see here on the screen. But sheltering does not just involve county staff. Other agencies such as the Department of Health in Palm Beach County, the Palm Beach County School District, the Palm Beach County and municipal fire agencies are assigned to fill vital roles in the shelters as well. It's a countywide team when operating shelters. How we have been preparing during non-hurricane season, also known as December through May, is through our planning, training, and exercise cycle. As part of the plan, train, and exercise cycle, the Division of Emergency Management has sponsored or conducted more than 35 training classes and have trained over 731 students in courses such as intermediate EOC functions, incident command and EOC interface, instructor presentation skills, planning section chief, operations section chief, climate adaptation planning, EOC leader skill set, basic public information classes, and incident command system training. In addition to our sponsored training courses, we encourage all community partners to participate in various FEMA independent study courses online. And then we also encourage all of our EOC staff members to take baseline ICS training, Incident Command System training, which has attributed to 92% of our EOC having completed National Basic Incident Management training. We have conducted or participated in several exercises, including exercising our Emergency Operations Center Continuity of Operations Plan, and we have recently exercised our Post-Disaster Redevelopment Plan. In addition to exercising locally developed plans, we regularly convene with all of the emergency managers around the state through regular conference calls, webinars, statewide or regional meetings, or by attending conferences such as the Governor's Hurricane Conference that the mayor mentioned earlier. This helps us discuss lessons learned, best practices, and what is implemented statewide. As a community, we need to encourage our residents to be ready for the unexpected, regardless of the time of year. On average, each month, our emergency management staff reach over 150 people directly with our preparedness presentations, but that's just a small number of people we address directly. We need everyone, including each and every one of you, to strongly encourage everyone to be prepared personally and professionally. So please take the opportunity to encourage your staff, your family members, your friends, and your constituents to be disaster prepared. It's very simple. We have 4 simple messages, so if you could help us spread the word. Make a plan, build a kit, get involved, and be informed. In order to make a plan, part of your plan is to know your evacuation zone and know your home. If you live in an evacuation zone and need to evacuate, know where you're going when officials ask you to evacuate, and stay with friends and family members if possible. Determine how you will get there, where is the meeting place for your family and friends, and make sure you have plans for your pets and anyone else in your family that has special needs. If you plan to stay home, make sure your home is secured and shuttered and shelter in place. If you need to evacuate, you need to know where to go and how to get there. Know your evacuation options. We provided some simple QR codes to help individuals access the information, but plan to stay with family or friends that live further inland, or at a hotel, or as a last resort, a shelter. Keep in mind, shelter space is limited and it doesn't have the comfort creatures of home. Also, individuals need to build a kit. Keep it stocked year-round. Plan for a 5 to 7 day supply of shelf-stable items. Those are items that can remain within your pantry. This kit does not need to be expensive. You can purchase an extra can or 2 each time you're in the store, or go BOGO shopping and put your BOGO in the pantry. Plan for canned food and snacks, and don't forget the can opener. As for water, you should plan for 1 gallon per person per day for 5 to 7 days. Again, that's 1 gallon per person per day. But those don't have to be water bottles that you purchase. Individuals can fill containers that they already have within their home out of our fine Palm Beach County Water Utilities water. Prescriptions and over-the-counter medication, flashlights, battery-powered radios and extra batteries, personal hygiene supplies, pet items, paper products, and have a supply of cash on hand. Also, make sure you maintain your important documents in a safe place. Have your identification, your insurance policy, birth certificates, medical insurance cards, list of medications available with your supplies, any legal documents, and put a few of your favorite family pictures and memorabilia. And pictures of your house. before a storm happens to ensure you've captured everything in your home before the storm. We have a comprehensive list on our website of items that people can buy for preparedness measures, and we also have another handy QR code. We also need to encourage our residents to get involved. There are several ways you can get involved in the community preparedness, response, and recovery. Volunteer with community groups in your community and check on your neighbors. With so many new people moving into our county, get to know your neighbors and help us educate them about preparedness. Primarily, educate them about what a hurricane may be. Some things you can do is help your neighbors or collect supplies for emergency kits, help them install their shutters, and help them evacuate if told to do so. After a storm, check on your neighbors who may be living alone or are elderly and may need assistance. You can help them by assisting them with removing shutters, sharing supplies and resources, or helping clean debris from their yards, because private property debris removal is the responsibility of the homeowner. And then we also have our Community Emergency Response Team program. We educate volunteers throughout the community about hazards where they live. CERT team training is free to members of our community, and individuals can learn fire safety, light search and rescue, team organization, disaster medical operations. And people stay connected through our CERT website. For individuals interested in taking a community emergency response team, a CERT training, can call the Division of Emergency Management or look on our website. The CERT program offers a consistent nationwide approach to volunteer training and organization. We need individuals to be informed. Our readypbc.com website is filled with valuable resources on preparedness information and tips. We encourage people to take whatever they need from our website. This information is available to anyone at any time, and it has preparedness messages with family, friends. Share this information with family, friends, and coworkers. When we activate to be informed, we transition the Palm Beach County Division of Emergency main phone line into our Emergency Information Center. So 561-712-6400 is a key number for our residents to have to be informed. And then people can also download our phone app called PBC DART. It provides valuable information at your fingertips. This smartphone application has evacuation zones, shelter open and closed status within it, damage assessment information, and many other features before, during, and after a disaster. All of the previous preparedness information is great to prepare for a storm and give you the advice you need to evacuate. And then finally, individuals need to be informed by signing up for Alert PBC. Palm Beach County has an Alert PBC, which allows you to opt in and receive public safety notifications via phone calls, text messaging, or email. Alert PBC allows us to alert you of public safety issues in your community, such as hazardous weather conditions could be impacting you. When we issue a notification about potential safety, hazard, or concern, you will receive a message on a voice, text, or email communication method that you have registered for. This information you provide is protected and will not be used for any other purpose. Residents can sign up for this service free by visiting alertpbc.com. Last year, more than 3,100 individuals registered for Alert PBC out of the almost 35,000 total that have registered. In total, we sent out vital information 139 times to more than 9 million contact numbers. And then finally, follow us on social media. This past year, our website alone had over 271,000 visits, and we had over 300,000 connections through our social media platforms.
So I know one of the things that some of you might be thinking is, how can I help? What can we do as our elected officials or the Board of County Commissioners? I know that oftentimes our elected officials in Tallahassee and in Washington, D.C. often come to us with the same thing. And we want to talk through a few of those items that we think are important to key into on that. First off is just understanding the priorities of the emergency management system. We've got 5 priorities that we key in on at the EOC, and that's life safety and life saving and security, establishing communications, which we'll talk a little bit more on the next slide, some of the mission-critical operations that we have, which are meeting some of the basic human needs that come forward during emergency response, our mission-critical infrastructure. When we look at our roads, our schools, our businesses, are they open, are they closed, and how do we get them open in a secure and safe manner? And then also our environmental hazard mitigation that we work through. When we talk about the role of a lot of officials that we have at all three levels of government, particularly here at the county level, assisting with federal declarations is one of the most important things right out of the gate that we can work on, and really keying into some of those relationships with our federal partners to make sure that we can turn on some of those FEMA programs. Oftentimes special requests that we have, not just at the federal level, but also at the state and the local level as well, and being able to turn on some of those relationships that we have to be able to explain some of our needs that we have. And then reimbursement support. Obviously, those vary sometimes based on the storm, but recently we've seen some, for the first times, 100% reimbursements from the federal government, which is very key and one of the first things we'll ask for if somebody from the federal government comes in and is standing before us. Mary has keyed us into that pretty clearly. And then also on the messaging, Mary spoke earlier about those 4 simple messages of making a plan, building a kit, getting involved, being informed, reinforcing some of those protective actions, and particularly reinforcing some of our public information that we have out there. You all have reach probably sometimes well beyond what we as just the county have from all of your different social media contacts, and we will prepare and provide that information to you. I know that our incident commander, Ms. Baker, spends a lot of time messaging with each of you throughout these types of incidents, so you have those kinds of things in place. I wanted to thank all of you. I know so many of you participated in the hurricane conference, but particularly Commissioner Greg Weiss, who sat on a panel with us in those last day of the session, which really keyed on elected officials and the roles and responsibilities of elected officials, and had some great discussions and conversations. And maybe Commissioner Weiss will share some of those as we get into the discussion portion of this presentation. I then also wanted to key on the last thing, and that came up a lot during the Governor's Hurricane Conference, and that's relationships. I think you heard that a lot in some of the opening ceremony about really building those relationships and making sure that our local partners and others know that we're there for them when they need us, and they're going to be there for them when they need us. That's why having Rob here with us from the National Weather Service, I think, is so important, and I think it's a perfect example of keying in on those relationships and understanding how valuable they are to our communications and what we are doing. And then lastly, I just wanted to say a couple of quick thank yous. Thank you to our County Attorney's Office as well, Mr. David Behar and others who work with us on some of the partnerships and emergency management. And then the last slide that we wanted to put up was just a minute to congratulate the Public Affairs team and the Public Safety Department's Division of Emergency Management for winning the Public Education Public Information Award during the Governor's Hurricane Conference last week. We appreciate all of the work that our county staff did to put on an incredible conference, and we have a brief 2-minute wrap-up video that we wanted to share with you from the Governor's Hurricane Conference.
You've got exhibits going on. You've got all these sorts of vendors coming here, which it's even waitlisted. There's more vendors than ever before. While the calendar dictates June 1st is the start of hurricane season, guess what? It's this Governor's Hurricane Conference that really kicks things off for government.
June 1st is the monumental day. We try to prepare as best we could, but once this conference gets announced and we're here, it's the reality check.
So when we come into this time of year at the Governor's Hurricane Conference, that's really our final opportunity to maybe hear some of those lessons that were learned in the previous storm, do any of those final preparations that we may need to do with some of our partners. You know, it's a community to respond to a hurricane. It's not just government, it's our nonprofit partners, and it's our residents.
Sometimes we have to plan for it. The training sessions have been amazing. I'm here to learn, I'm here to network. So it's great because we get to see and meet people with different perspectives.
We're based out of Northwest Montana, and what we do is we build engineered-to-order trucks. So that's why we like to come here and meet people that are actually getting out there and fixing things after a hurricane.
Absolutely. And this conference just lets you know, if you haven't been preparing, Well, thankfully, they'll get some resources to you.
So it's government, it's nonprofit partners, and it's the private sector partners coming together and talking about what are those gaps in our communities and what are the best practices that we can implement that work for us. So we're ready if and when a disaster strikes, not only on the response side of the house, but to ensure that we're resilient and we can recover quickly to any disaster that would happen to us here in Palm Beach County.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, for your indulgence, and we're available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much for that, very thorough. And thank you for coming from the National Weather Service. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Bernard at this time.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just want to thank staff for being here and presenting to us. You know, June 1st is hurricane season, and you know, I know we get this presentation on a yearly basis, but it is very important for our residents to know that we are preparing for hurricane season pretty much year-round. First, I want to thank Rob for being here. As you know, as the former mayor in the county and experiencing Hurricane Dorian, and to get information from the meteorologist in Miami was vital for me, so in that way we can make decisions as a county. So it's so important for you to be here for us to pretty much get an understanding of how, the weather services work, and also even explaining rapid intensification, because it's very important and vital for us as a community to be prepared. So, Ms. Baker, as we know that we have over 4,000 employees that you pretty much have to marshal in and to be ready. So thank you for your staff. I have a couple questions. So, Mary, in regards to, one of the major concerns for some of the residents is, when there's a storm, loss of electricity. What's your working relationship with our utility provider in terms of being ready for the storm?
Well, we are in constant communication with Florida Power and Light as our main utility provider here in the county. They actually have a seat within our EOC when we activate. We were just part of their pre-hurricane season exercise that took place 2 weeks ago. They invited us to their facility to walk us through their command post and see all the resources and support that they have available to them. We have a very robust open chain of communication, not only through hurricane season, but just day-to-day outages. They will contact us continuously, whether it's even just 100 individuals out due to an afternoon storm, and they let us know that repair are underway. So that communication is very good and broad when it comes to FP&L. And they're actually presenting to some of our internal stakeholders at a meeting in our EOC tomorrow. So, and they're giving us the latest information on their restoration processes. So I would say that we are very fortunate. You hear about outages in some other areas of the state at times. But we have a very robust system in the county, and I just want to assure our residents that they are there for us and answer the call when we make that call.
Thank you very much. Follow-up, Madam Mayor?
You go right ahead, Commissioner Bernard.
I know today we're doing the League of Cities annual luncheon. Todd, what's the working relationship with the League of Cities in terms of communications with the mayors and the city managers in regards to preparation for storm?
Yeah, I think appreciate the question, and that's something that we work extremely hard on. We mentioned how communication is so important, and I think when you go back to a number of different responses that we've had over the years, and particularly over the last 5 years, the director of the League of Cities is always positioned in the Emergency Operations Center. We have a desk, one of our ESF desks for them. We usually have multiple representatives that cycle in during Alpha and Bravo shifts in order to do that. Also, outside of the operations room, there are always communications that are going on, conference calls. We have emergency manager meetings in our monthly preparations that we do with our cities and other partners. We always start those off in the morning with our roundtables with just our city emergency management partners. So the feedback that we've gotten from our municipalities, I think, has been very, very good and very positive in terms of how that relationship works and how that communication has been with them. So I would say that our relationship there on emergency management with our municipalities is extremely strong.
Thank you. You had mentioned that we do have 2 special needs shelter, and I heard you mention like people can pre-register. I know that in the past that's something that we're really concerned about, which is our special needs residents in the county. What are the locations, and how did you choose some of those shelters and also the pet shelter?
Yeah, the special needs shelter, the primary one is at the South Florida Fairgrounds. So we partner with the fairgrounds and the operation of that and the Department of Health. And that's where primarily we place all of our electric-dependent special needs residents there. We also have the secondary. We'll put all the special needs clients in that facility, but if we do have to open up the secondary one, it's at Palm Beach Central High School in the gymnasium. And that's where you'll put those non-electric dependent individuals. And a non-electrical dependent individual that qualifies for special needs is an individual maybe with Alzheimer's or dementia that has a caregiver but doesn't need the electrical dependency. We also have the Department of Health there in that facility working with us. And then the pet-friendly shelters is the West Boynton Recreation Center. Mm-hmm. That's a county-owned facility, and that is right next door to Park Vista High School. So the one at at Park Vista High School is where the pet owners will stay, and the pets stay in the West Boynton Rec Center. And then if we need overflow, then we'll put additional pets in the locker rooms of the gymnasium at Park Vista High School.
In regards to, on the special needs shelter you mentioned at the fairgrounds, what's the working relationship with the sheriff's office and our Palm Beach County Fire Rescue in regards to preparation for that shelter?
No, I'm glad you asked. So we do have law enforcement in all of our shelters. We work in partnership in the general population with our school police. We have a very robust partnership with them. And then in our special needs shelter, we have the sheriff's office there. They are in attendance there, as well as our Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. And we have fire rescue EMS units at all of our shelters, whether it's county government or municipal. They actually send an EMS unit to each of the shelters, so we have that coverage for that medical assistance.
Okay, and then last question is in regards to the 15 shelters, what went into the process in terms of establishing those 15 shelters, and what was the working relationship with the school district in regards to creating those shelters?
There was a baseline structural integrity that went into the design of those facilities. Now our building codes are so strong and robust that the basic building code meets some of that baseline, what was created after Hurricane Andrew. But it also has within it, they have enhanced hurricane protection areas, which have not full air conditioning, but ventilation that will run, exhaust fans, and emergency lighting throughout certain areas of the schools. And that's why those have been identified as the risk shelters.
And one follow-up, Madam Mayor.
Everyone, go right ahead. No, they're good questions.
Last
Go right
one.
ahead.
If we need additional shelters, I think this is probably Ms. Baker, kind of what's the process in terms of if it's needed, and how do we go about if there's an additional shelter that's needed?
If additional shelters are needed, I just reach out to the superintendent. We identify additional, depending upon the area we're trying to serve, and identify an additional school that has met the criteria. This board has allowed us to work with the school district, and the school district's board has worked with us as well. And so during, I guess after '04, we started to put generators, backup generators in those particular areas. We worked with the fairgrounds to make sure that that occurred. So we are positioned in a way that we can reach out to our partners throughout, and if additional shelters are needed, we're prepared.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Bernard. Commissioner Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, congratulations, Team PBC, on the award. That was a pleasure to watch you guys receive that. If we could go back to slide 14. Thank you, Rob, for coming to talk to us. This, I was actually very excited to see this. This is expected to roll out in mid-August, you said?
Yes, yes, that is correct.
Okay, and as I understand it, because, you know, any of us who've been through a number of these storms know not to just look at where the eye is, but a lot of people, they look at that line and they think anything beyond that, like, oh, I'm okay, I've dodged the bullet, and that's just really not the case. Is this planning to, when you put it out, will it gauge the size of the storm? Because some storms almost cover the entire state, some are very compact. Will that address this?
Yeah, well, basically, when we place those wind watches and warnings, for example, a hurricane watch or hurricane warning, we're taking into account the size of the storm. And certainly, every storm is a little bit different. Some storms are a little bit smaller, and some storms can have very large wind fields. So we take that into account, and we also take into account the inherent uncertainty in every forecast. You know, we wish we could forecast every storm exactly to the mile, but, you know, that's virtually impossible. But so we take that into account as well. So so these wind watches and warnings that are plotted in red and blue, you know, depending on whether they're warnings or watches, that's taking into account the size of the storm and also the uncertainty where, you know, if the storm can shift, like I mentioned in the other slide, if it makes even a minor shift one way or the other, it can make a big difference as far as what areas could experience the wind impact. So we feel that this is really a good representation of the true threat to areas even inland from the wind.
And so this, sorry, my picture's really small, but you have the warning zone here, which would be like, if it's just a hurricane
Right.
force, not really telling how many miles per hour, and you're kind of are we getting away from that line of like, here's the eye? Because I do feel that confuses a lot of people, and they look at that, and if it's far away from them, or if it's shifting in another direction, they think they're out of danger. And that's not the
Absolutely, yeah.
case.
So, yeah, we certainly don't want people, where the focus is getting away from that exact forecast track, and we're also trying to de-emphasize at least a little bit the cone itself, because the cone can also be misinterpreted. You know, in other words, if you're in the cone, you're in danger. If you're just outside the cone, you're not in danger, but that's not the case. The cone is only a representation of where it's more likely that the center of the storm is going to fall, you know, within that forecast track, but it does not take into account the size of the storm. So that's where the wind watches and warnings plotted on top of that map give you a more comprehensive threat analysis or threat depiction, especially from the wind.
So are you going to put speeds on there, or just it's hurricane or tropical storm?
Yeah. For now, we're just going to keep it, you know, in other words, if it's a hurricane from category 1 and up, that'll be colored in red, for example, for a hurricane warning. A hurricane watch would be that pink color. Now, the detailed forecast information that's always, you know, that we release with every forecast is going to have more specific information on the potential wind speeds that could affect our region. And this is information that we provide to Marriott and her team, you know, and really to everyone. We put that information on social media, on our website. So really, this is a good starting point, but there's a lot more information that's provided that really gives people information on what to prepare for from the different hazards of the storm.
Okay. I just wanted to say I appreciate the direction this is going, and hopefully you keep adding to it, because I think this will be a better way to communicate with people than the cone and the center line of the storm. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Barnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Stephanie, Mary, Todd. I really enjoyed attending the Hurricane Conference, my second one. Also congratulations to Lisa, Public Affairs, on your award, and thank you for everything you do for my office in particular. I know we use your help on a lot of projects. I wanted to look at slide 5, the top of the page. I'm sorry, what's your name again, sir? Rob, sorry. You mentioned the Palm Beach County in the past 13 years. We've managed to avoid several direct hits, thankfully. Can you tell us from a meteorological perspective, why we've been able to dodge the bullet for so many years?
I think we've been really lucky.
I'll take that. I'll take it.
There's no meteorological explanation, to be honest with you, aside from where the weather systems happen to be in place at that time. I mean, we all remember the big scare from Hurricane Dorian in 2019. We had a Category 5 that literally stalled over the western Bahamas, less than 100 miles from us. And then, it did make that turn to the north, and stayed safely, well, except for some tropical storm force winds along the coast. We really didn't get much of anything from Dorian, but that could have easily been, just another 50, 60 miles closer. It would have made all the difference in the world. Hurricane Matthew in 2016, Hurricane Irma in 2017. I mean, I could mention several storms in the last 10 years that have been really close. I think it's just a matter of, it's just good luck, really, that we managed to miss direct impacts from those storms.
I have to remind my relatives in Long Island about Sandy and Irene every time they tell us how dangerous it is to live in Southeast Florida, storm-wise. But has this, in your opinion, created a sense of complacency? Are people maybe less prepared to deal with a major storm since we haven't had one in so long?
Yeah, that's always a concern, and sometimes you hear people say, yeah, I went through Hurricane Irma, or well, they probably didn't. For example, let's say really anyone in Southeast Florida that if they say that they went through Hurricane Irma, what they really went through was the extreme outer fringe of Hurricane Irma. Yeah, we did have some gusty winds, and there was a little bit of damage, but it was nothing like what it was in the Keys or in Southwest Florida. So, yeah, I think there is always that danger of complacency or thinking that, okay, I went through a storm when you really didn't go through the worst part of it. So we need to that's why we're always, we have to remind people that, yeah, those were near misses, but if you do get hit directly by a hurricane, it's going to be a lot worse than what you experienced from these recent storms.
And we've had a population explosion in Palm Beach County over this time. People from different parts of the country who may never have experienced a major storm like we've seen with Andrew or Jean, Francis. Has that caused you to change the way you set your policies with regards to issuing warnings to people to evacuate? And have you seen a resistance from people who may be recent transplants to Florida, Palm Beach County, who might not have that fear of God instilled into them? And think, oh, it's just a couple of rain clouds. It might not be anything that big. I've seen hurricanes on TV. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge. It's a challenge constantly here in South Florida. We have so many people moving into the area, as you said, that come from places that do not get hurricanes at all. And I mean, usually though, I find that actually sometimes I find having to talk them down a little bit. They feel they're coming here as, okay, we're going to get hit. It's going to be really, really bad. It's like, well, yes, we need to be ready. We're not going to get hit every year. Fortunately, we're not going to get hit most years, but our history alone, indicates, that there are, points that we're in a region that's prone to getting hit by hurricanes. So I think that's always the message, is we just have to be ready. Just try to put things in their proper perspective, without having to over or under, do it, if you will. It's just people have to understand what our threats are, and also the vulnerabilities in their specific area, whether it's from storm surge, inland flooding or rainfall flooding or winds. People have to understand where they live, know your zone. We always emphasize that. So yeah, it's a continuous educational effort here in South Florida, certainly.
Right. People see the wind and the rain, they forget about that storm surge. I saw your graphic, the video, and what, stuck with me for a long time was the video in Fort Myers from, I forgot what storm it was.
Ian.
A few years ago. You could see in real time the water levels rising from a little puddle to 15 feet. Is Palm Beach County, if we get hit by a major storm, in a similar situation? Are we vulnerable to that type of storm surge?
Yeah, we don't have the type of storm surge that you get, for example, on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Our water drops off pretty quickly just offshore. In other words, we have really deep water just offshore. So that limits actually the amount of surge, because that water can't pile up as fast before reaching the coast. But on the other hand, what we can get here are large waves on top of that storm surge. So, as I mentioned in the slide, is 6 to 9 feet, for example, above ground level. That's just the storm surge alone, or the tide alone. But that does not include waves that are on top, and those waves can sometimes be, several feet high on top of that. So, as those waves come rolling in, at a pretty good speed with a lot of force and power, that's what can really do a lot of the damage to coastal communities and coastal structures.
All right. Mayor, just one more
Go right
question.
ahead,
please.
go
Thank
ahead,
you, ma'am.
Commissioner Brennan.
There was discussion about, thank you, sir. There was talk about the 15 shelters that Palm Beach County set up for seniors, for people with special needs. I wanted to ask you about the availability of transportation to get those seniors to the shelters, especially if there's only a few days before a storm, and not just seniors, but people who are out on the streets, homeless. I know you can't force people to get on a bus and go to a shelter, but is there any kind of plan in place to get people to the shelters?
We absolutely have a very robust, our Palm Tran and our Palm Tran Connection does a phenomenal job in this county. We actually transport through Palm Tran Connection those residents to the special needs shelter that need transportation, and then all of our fixed bus routes have transportation. If a person goes to a fixed bus route and says they're evacuating to a shelter, they will take them to that shelter location. They will make sure that they get to that shelter location. We also have some ad hoc, I don't know if that's the right word, but some routes that are established when we do have a storm coming that will go to some of those locations where there are homeless encampments and maybe some homeless people congregate, and have some of our Palm Tran vehicles go by and pick up those residents and take them to a shelter. So Palm Tran is also within our Emergency Operations Center, and they do a phenomenal job until the very last minute when they have to pull those buses off the road on making sure our residents get to our shelters.
So there's
One
no
thing-
need.
One thing I might add too, I mean, I know we're focused on hurricanes as we talk about some of those shelters, but other incidents outside of hurricane season, cold weather, for example. We are very keyed in on the transportation needs during cold weather incidents when we open up our cold weather shelters, both on the east and the west coast, and similarly have a transportation plan in place to ensure that individuals who need rides to those locations can find some of those rides to get there.
Okay. There's no need to register to get on a Palm Tran bus to go to a shelter. I know there was a mention about registering, pre-registering to go to a shelter or find a place at a shelter for people with special needs, but you can just hop on a bus and say, I'm evacuating.
Yeah, and Palm Tran does have a process, a registration process on their website where individuals, if they're in an evacuation zone, they can be pre-identified as an individual that needs transportation. That way they have that advanced work done and they're already in the database that they would need transportation.
So they go to Palm Tran's website, or do they go to Ready PBC?
They can go to either. They can go to readypbc.com and get the link to the Palm Tran site, or they can go directly to the Palm Tran site and get that information.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you, Commissioner Barnett. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. So before we talk about the hurricane conference, I'm wondering if you could comment on something that we all hear a lot about is swales and water. What's the purpose of a swale?
Thank you for asking. I think our South Florida Water Management and our Lake Worth Drainage District and everybody else would be happy to have that communication. The drainage system in the state of Florida, we're very flat, and it's designed in a way to keep the water out of the homes. So swales are intended to hold water so that the water doesn't go into individuals' homes. So that's okay to have water in your swale. And one thing that often happens after a storm is people will call our office and say, I have water in my swale. That's okay. They don't need to call our office. That's the way it's designed. Even water standing on the roadway, that's a way that our drainage system is designed to be. The concern, when people need to start to be concerned, is when they have water intrusion coming into their homes. That definitely warrants a phone call. If somebody needs to get out of their home, that would warrant a phone call, but it's okay to have water in their swales. It's designed for that purpose.
And you may have said this earlier, but how long should people plan to be able to take care of themselves after a storm or any other type of emergency?
we encourage people to be ready for 5 to 7 days. I'd go on the high end and say, be able to stay at home for 7 days.
And how much water would that be?
1 gallon per person per day, you should have a supply in your home.
Okay. And for some folks that are new here, can you talk about our barrier islands and the evacuation, and then what happens once after the evacuation order has been issued?
When we issue an evacuation order, we'll make those announcements. We'll do several automated phone calls to those residents talking about that we've issued an evacuation order. There will be a point in time, there are several coordination calls that happen throughout the day in the Emergency Operations Center, one of those being with the Coast Guard as well, about the closure of bridges. When we talk about closure of bridges within the county, there is a point where the bridges are actually locked down. So we have to also coordinate any of that marine traffic that may need to utilize some of the bridges. So bridges may open a little bit more frequently to allow those vessels to evacuate if they're evacuating. But there does come a point where bridges will be locked down, and individuals will not have access to emergency response vehicles anymore because of winds. So when we start issuing those evacuation orders, we'll blast that information out through all means possible, through our regular radio, television, as well as through automated phone systems. So, and we'll only issue those evacuation orders to those people that we feel it necessary to evacuate. And I want to go back to the storm surge. We don't want to over-evacuate people. So that's, when we issue an evacuation order, that's a very tough order to make. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of information that goes into issuing an evacuation order. But when we do issue it, we expect and we would hope that those residents would heed that warning and evacuate.
When you say lockdown, what does that mean?
Yeah, thank you. Up or down?
When we talk about the bridges locked down, they are physically locked down to where they will not open for marine traffic. So they will be locked down, and the bridges come down and they're in the lockdown position. They will not open.
So not like, so the bridges don't stay up?
No, they lock them down in the downward position.
Good.
Through the bridges.
Oh, do they let auto traffic on the bridges after they're locked down?
That would we don't necessarily block the roadways. I don't want to speak to, and maybe I know David Ricks is back there in the audience, if he wants to speak to the process of road and bridge with the bridges. And I have a feeling he's walking up behind me somewhere.
You're recognized.
That would be great for him to reference the road and bridge process through that.
May I appreciate, but you have eyes behind your head. That's amazing. Mr. Rick, sure, state your name and your position, please.
David Ricks, Director, Engineering and Public Works, County Engineer. Just like Mayor indicated, we work very closely with EOC and also the Coast Guard on the bridges. And on about 35 miles an hour winds, we will get a notice from the Coast Guard to actually basically lock those bridges down. In terms of vehicle traffic, we will probably leave them open, but in terms of basically boat traffic, the bridges will not open at all. And until after the winds pass and we get a notice from the Coast Guard to open those bridges.
Thank you. And while you're here, if I may, Mayor, can we talk about the traffic lights if there's power outage? What happens?
So we have about 24 emergency generators that we will deploy, and it's also we work with our municipalities who actually emergency generators that will coordinate for the critical intersections. And some of our intersections are near basically critical facilities, so when those facilities get powered back up, our traffic lights get back up.
But if there are no traffic lights operating, what are people supposed to do?
Well, basically, if the lights are out, basically you post a tree as a four-way stop and act accordingly. And when my first hurricane was Irma, and I saw people in a multi-lane intersection just drive through there like there was nothing, and I was in shock. But for the residents who've never been here, when you see no lights, doesn't mean that the lights are your go. That means you either treat it as a four-way stop until power is restored.
Which is hard for people in Florida, right? Because just a regular stop sign can be confusing.
That is correct. That is correct.
Thank you. So I just want to say, first off, thank you all for the great job at the Governor's Hurricane Conference. It's always really educational, I think. Good information. The video on 2004 and the activity, it's hard to remember what that was like. It was 20 years ago. But how many storms came up to Florida one after another after another? That video really drove home that point. Might be a good thing to show at some point on Channel 20. But I had the opportunity to participate in a discussion about the role of elected officials. And it was myself, it was Terry Burrows from Okeechobee County, and then we had Boots, was it McKenzie? From Walton County. So 3 really different counties, and it was interesting, but I think the comments were the same on the electeds part, which was, as it relates to emergency management, is to get the hell out of the way and stay in your lane and let the professionals do what they need to do. I think that was the clear message in that you all are professionals. You're trained to manage these types of emergencies, whether it's hurricanes, whether it's the myriad of other types of emergencies. You have plans put in place, you have training, and you have a staff to help implement that. Although we play a role, I think, in helping to educate and inform the community, you're the experts, and that we need to really rely on you and your judgments. And I think that was the big takeaway, I think, for everybody there. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. Ms. Baker, you're recognized.
Everyone is.
Oh, no, we have one other. Thank you. Vice Mayor Marino.
Thank you. Yes. I actually was in the Gardens EOC when I was mayor, and I was sort of rescued out of my house. Maria, you got to come to the EOC, but you're going to be a fly on the wall. You can't open your mouth because you're not certified to be in here. But what I do want to say is the things that we take for granted were experienced that day. The fact that our staff will say, if our vehicles have to be on the road, we're going to use X amount of gas, and we're going to run out of gas in 12 days if we don't have it. You know, it was just eye-opening for me to be in the EOC. But again, as I said, I have no experience. As Greg said, Commissioner Weiss, sorry, stay out of the way. But I did want to comment, because I know Mac asked the question too. It was also great to hear the constant conversations between the county and the cities, the League of Cities, and all the mayors and the city managers, and the constant updates. The collaboration is something that, you know, we strive to do, but we do experience it when there is a hurricane. Some of the things I also noticed, Mary, you were very on point when you said you don't have to go out and buy water. We all have tons and tons and tons of containers at home that we can put water in, and we can fill our bathtubs for that matter. And then we're not adding plastic to the system, so that's always a good thing. Ice for medications. I remember one of the things that I've experienced is people calling me saying, where can I get ice? Because I don't have ice for my medications. So that's also a good reminder to people. And resilience, infrastructure resilience. I know we have in the room right now, and we were just talking about the shoreline yesterday in Riviera Beach. Thank you, by the way, for attending that meeting with me. But it is important for us to constantly be aware of our infrastructure, because just from the king tides that were occurring here this season, you know, Jupiter Inlet Colony almost lost some homes. So, and that's not even a hurricane. So anything that our county can do in the perspective of resilience is really important, because it's infrastructure. It's not just resilience, it's also maintaining our infrastructure, and that's important. And that's all of my notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to encourage my colleagues on this commission to include these in our newsletters, because I think it's important that the word gets out. A lot of people don't watch this broadcast today, but they certainly read your exciting newsletters. And I think it's important that we get the word out to everybody. We have 24 miles of coastline, And that is really important that we understand exactly what happens. Did we add some more coastline just while I was talking? We did, we had. Well, actually, we just annexed another couple miles of coastline. So that's very important for those colleagues of mine who represent people on the coastline because that is a deadly surge. And I learned from the conference that that kills more people than anything else. Is a storm surge. And then second is going out and cutting the trees down so you can clear your yard after the storm. And I encourage those colleagues of mine who represent senior living communities to make sure that they should have generators by state law. After what occurred a couple of years ago, there is a state law that every senior community should have an operational generator so that the folks who are there can get electricity and certainly air conditioning during those periods of time. And there are many folks in our rural communities who don't have county water, so when they lose electricity, they lose water. And the only second thing worse than losing electricity is losing water. So these areas also need to be recognized by my colleagues as well. And of course, roofs, and I know that there's a certain number, is it 120 mile per hour winds, which most Florida roofs cannot withstand? It used to be 120, maybe with our new building codes, do we have a number that really makes our roofs more vulnerable?
Yeah, not really sure about the specific building codes as it relates to roofs. Yeah, I mean, but certainly our building codes are, we're fortunate that here in Southeast Florida, we have pretty strong building codes. So, it's always, that's underscores the importance of making sure that we keep, our homes, fortified, making sure that we're making repairs so that we can take advantage of those building codes. And, so our roofs, for example, can withstand more wind. And of course, our windows and our shutters are all really, really important aspects of hurricane preparedness and safety.
Yeah, it's very, very important because I remember in Andrew, you lose your roof, you're in mortal danger, and the things you need to do after that. And one thing I just have to thank that we're all here in Palm Beach County because we really have you as a team in front of us to make sure that we're informed, that we're protected, and possibly if we get close to, it usually happens in August, I think August or September, we get some severe possibilities of storm. I say possibilities because luck is with us, Palm Beach, luck. So that if we get close, possibly we could, and Mr. Bonlair, I'm looking at you, we could possibly have you come back if it looks like we're getting pretty close to something coming our way, just to renew and refresh everybody's idea. But we really are very thankful for you and for everything you've done. And obviously the state of Florida is very thankful because you got an award. And that makes us feel very, very protected and very secure. Now I'm going to pass on to our administrator, Ms. Baker.
Thank you, and I will be brief. Just a few notes that I'd like to also add to the excellent presentation that was made by staff and Bob from the Weather Service. Prescriptions. As you're building your kit and you're laying out what needs to be in it, make sure that you get your prescriptions filled prior to the storm. So always have that extra, the extra bottle of pills because we don't know how long we're going to be out if we get hit. But make sure that prescriptions are in your toolkit. Also, working with all of our special districts, our drainage, along with road and bridge. If you're in a neighborhood, because this happened to mine, people just kind of drop trash, it blocks your drains. So make sure within your community those drains are clear because that's where the water will flow and keep from backing up. So that is crucial. Also, there are neighborhood homeowners associations. They are responsible for opening a certain valve that will also allow their drainage to flow into canals. So we need to make sure those drains are also open. Otherwise, your neighborhood will flood. So we do work with our special districts and our HOAs and remind them, but if you're on an HOA board, please open those up. We also like to make sure that people understand when we ask you to evacuate, if you don't evacuate and the winds get up to a certain speed, we can't help you. We pull with much force our fire rescue people off the highway because they want to respond to every call. But when it gets up to a certain speed, they don't go out. I can't let them out because we will need them afterwards, and it's a danger. So when we ask you to evacuate, please evacuate. In addition, when the winds stop blowing, please do not get on the streets because it's dangerous. We don't know what's out there. We need time to get out, make sure power lines are up, not in the way of creating havoc. Do not allow the kids to play in the water because we don't know what's in the water yet. So just security. We will sound the alarm when it's safe to go out onto the streets. We do work with law enforcement, so in case you're out, you should only be out for work if we're allowing you to be out. And you should carry ID with you. And these are just some of the lessons that we have learned. I'd like to thank, number one, our staff, who are just awesome because they do step to the plate when our community is threatened. They prepare, I'm asking them to make sure, because this is the time of year, prepare your personal and professional plans so that you know where your family's gonna be and they're safe. We do allow family to be brought into the shelter. We segregate them so that they're not taking up space that the rest of the public can take up, but you know that your family is safe. I'd like to thank not only all of our staff because we work closely together. That includes libraries and parks because they also make sure that if we've got children and we're working the shelter, the kids and parents are being taken care of as well. Coast Guard, law enforcement, I'm gonna miss somebody, so I shouldn't do this. FPL, our federal, as well as our state partners, they're in the EOC with us. And that has made all the difference in the world. So when we need to walk over to FPL to make sure it's okay to release someone from our special needs shelter, we can track and ensure that their power is on before we send them back. But it's incredible what we've been able to accomplish with our partners in the EOC with us. And I can't say enough about the national weather folks and all of our people working with us because we talk after the announcements, we talk before, and all night sometimes. So I know that Pedro retired, but please let him know that I will never forget him and thank him very much for all the work that he did here in Palm Beach County. And I'd also like to thank the board for your support because when we need you, you're there. You help us get the word out, and sometimes we work with you or around you. But thank you.
Ms. Baker, if we get close to a possibility of a storm, I'd like to request, with your permission, that we have the Lake Worth Drainage District represented here, because I know many of we talked about swales, we also talk about those canals that empty, it's important that the folks know that will be happening, because it's a very big part of the inland areas and how they stay safe from flooding. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
We
Okay.
actually work with all of our, just so you know, we
I
work
know.
with all of the special districts, including Lake Worth. We demand that they meet so that we can all work together so we know where to flow the water. South Florida Water Management District is a major key player because we have to coordinate how the water flows east during disasters, but we will ensure that they're here.
Excellent, thank you so much. If there's no other comments or questions, do we have any cards, Commissioner Weiss, from the public? No? Seeing none, thank you very much, and stay safe, Palm Beach County. I just want to remind everybody here before we go on to the next workshop item, which will be the overview of county construction process, that we will be breaking at 11:30 for the League of Cities lunch. So let's go ahead and let's begin the next one, if we could. And that is 4B on your agenda. Thank you very much. Ms. Colazzo, will you be running this staff meeting? You're recognized. Thank you.
Set? Perfect. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Isami Ayala, Assistant County Administrator and Facilities Development and Operations Director. It is my pleasure today to have the directors of the county's 5 construction departments joining me. Laura Beebe, Director of Airports, David Ricks, County Engineer and Director of Engineering and Public Works, Ali Bayat, Director of Water Utilities, and Deb Drum, Director of Environmental Resources Management. For context, during the November 2023 workshop meeting, while addressing staff presentation regarding the county's 5-year capital improvement plan and road infrastructure, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to return at a later time with an overview of the project delivery methods currently being used by the county's 5 construction departments, and number 2, to provide recommendations as to alternative delivery methods that could be considered to accelerate and or attain more efficient project delivery. Through this workshop item, we seek to fulfill board direction. Before proceeding with the presentation, please allow us to address some logistical matters. As you can see, this is a team effort involving some of the largest departments in the county. We have lots of information to share, and we will do that efficiently. And although there is a common thread that unites us all, there are some operational differences amongst us. Said differences emerge from our specific missions. As such, the 5 of us will be taking turns in presenting information. Our hope is that this will provide for a more engaging way of sharing ideas. Let us then begin with an overview of the 5 construction departments. As you know, I lead the Facilities Development and Operations Department. My professional and academic background is in engineering, law, and public administration. FDO is the county's internal services provider. We provide construction services for all general government departments as well as for the constitutional offices. The unit within FDO that handles construction work is the Capital Improvements Division, or CID. This division is led by architect Fernando Delgado, who is joining us in the audience, and I'm going to ask him to stand, as well as his assistant director, David Hawk, who is also an architect. And the reason I asked them to be here today is because I thought it will be important for the board to get to see as well the leadership of the division. They usually don't join us at the staff table. As it relates to personnel complement, the division has 10 project managers, 6 of which are county employees, and the other 4 are outsourced from Jacobs and Ecom. Those are the 2 project management firms that we have under contract. The project managers are the colleagues that handle large capital projects. CID also has 13 facility system project managers. These are the colleagues that handle small capital projects. On the administrative side, the division has 1 contract manager and 7 administrative positions handling our procurement, contracts, work orders, agenda items, and related documents. As of April 2024, we had over 600 open projects, and that then takes us to airports. Laura?
Good morning. As the Director of Airports, I'm responsible for the oversight of the county's airport system, which includes PBI and 3 general aviation airports. My professional background over the past 25 years with Palm Beach County has been in government and airport law and airport administration. The Department of Airports is responsible for all aspects of airport development, including funding, design, and construction. All county improvement projects conducted on an airport property is managed by the Department of Airports, including but not limited to construction, reconstruction, and rehabilitation of roads and bridges, airfield infrastructure such as runways and taxiways, parking garages, airport terminal facilities, and other support buildings, including an airport fire station. All planning and construction projects are coordinated by our Planning and Development and Community Affairs Division. The division is led by Deputy Director Cynthia Portnoy, who's a licensed professional engineer with a background in public sector infrastructure projects with decades of experience in aviation development and construction. Cindy's also in the audience today. Cindy, can you stand up? Unfortunately, I'm going to go ahead and share that she will be retiring next year, so we have some really big shoes to fill in the Department of Airports. I'm going to be very sad to see her go. In addition to Cindy, the construction staff is comprised of 2 licensed professional engineers, an architectural field representative, 2 construction coordinators, and 2 administrative staff. We also have 2 outsourced project managers with HDR and AECOM. And as of April 2024, the department had 84 open projects with 24 projects in the planning phase. And now I'll turn it over to David.
Good morning. I am David Rich, County Engineer. As the board knows, I'm the County Engineering and Public Works Department Director. My professional background is in civil engineering for both U.S. Navy and all several local governments. I've overseen countless public works projects. Here at Palm Beach County, I oversee about 475 positions with several divisions. Of those, we have several construction units. As you see on this slide 5 here, we have construction coordination that's basically our fixed bid projects. Edward Hoffman is the director of those. We have about 30 open projects on that. The next is of our Road and Bridge Division, Adam Faustini. In terms of most of our milling and resurfacing projects, about 30 open projects there. Next slide. And then we have roadway production, which is our sealed bid, most of those projects, major capital projects. We've got about 49 open projects on that. Then last, we have a lot of traffic striping projects, traffic signal projects, and Mohasem at Turk, director, is the manager of that. We've got 65 open projects on that. And so, as of last week, we provided you, the board, an update of our overall budget. Thank you for your time. Our next presenter is Deb from Environmental Resources Management.
Good morning. My name is Deb Drum. I'm the Director of Environmental Resources Management. And ERM's construction projects are associated with 2 divisions. The Natural Resources Stewardship, led by Brenda Hovde, oversees the restoration of natural areas, and with successes of past restoration efforts and ongoing maintenance of those sites, they're shifting their focus to associated public use facilities. Some sites still don't have public use facilities, while others are nearing their design life and are scheduled for replacement. The Environmental Enhancement and Restoration Division, led by Matt Mitchell, is responsible for a majority of recent construction projects. These include large-scale beach nourishment, emergency dune repairs after significant erosion events, and restoration of critical habitat in the Lake Worth Lagoon and adjacent waterways. The Business Operations and Community Outreach Division, led by Laura Thompson, supports the project managers with the necessary contracting services, budgeting, and grant administration. The complement of staff seen here is a snapshot of our current ongoing projects. All ERM projects require years of design and regulatory permitting before construction and years of post-construction regulatory requirements. As a result, any of ERM's environmental analysts or senior environmental analysts could function as project managers based on their assigned work areas, programmatic needs, and whether we have grants or other opportunities to proceed with projects referenced in our management or restoration plans. And last but definitely not least, water utilities with Ali.
Thank you. Morning. Thank you, I appreciate it. Ali Bayat, I've been with the county for the past 14 years, registered professional engineer in the state of Florida and also project management professional. Palm Beach County Water Utilities is the 3rd largest utility in the state of Florida. We do serve about 635,000 people. Our current CIP is about $1 billion, $200 million already in the CIP in the next 5 years. And I cannot do the work without the help of 2 of the best engineers in the government, and they both are here with me, Kristen Bernstein and Jane House. If you don't mind, please stand up. Okay, and that's it for me.
So during the previously referenced November 2023 workshop, as the conversation proceeded, the county attorney rightfully pointed out that in implementing capital improvement projects, the county 5 construction departments are required to comply with numerous statutory, regulatory, and procedural requirements. This slide and the ones that follow, which I will certainly not read, seek to provide an idea of just some of the general requirements that must be met by all 5 construction departments. Please note that this list is not comprehensive, and it's just meant to provide a glimpse into the breadth of the requirements that apply to construction-related efforts. In addition to the general requirements, some of us have project-specific requirements that must be met. As it relates to FDO, those specific requirements tie back to the department and the funding source that we are supporting at any given time. For example, if FDO is supporting Palm Tran, in doing so, we must follow Federal Transit Administration guidelines and grant requirements.
As you all know, the Department of Airports is required to ensure that the county complies with all of its federal and state grant assurance requirements when the county accepts grants for planning and construction. The grant assurances require compliance with a long list of federal regulations in addition to this very long list that was just shown, including executive orders and FAA orders, Title VI, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, federal procurement rules, among others.
And ERM relies heavily on external funding sources to facilitate environmental restoration efforts. I have mentioned in previous budget presentations that our budget ranges from anywhere from 25 to 30% ad valorem, with the balance coming from grant partnerships. An overwhelming majority of these funding sources are federal and state grants. Each agency or program within the agency have specific funding requirements beyond the general statutory limitations previously mentioned and shown on the slides. For example, beach nourishment projects that receive state and/or federal funding must meet certain public access criteria. Another example is Florida's Communities Trust funding that restricts the use of properties acquired with Florida Communities Trust funds to be used for special events to generate revenues without FCT approval. Those are just a couple of examples of where we have additional requirements.
One thing we would like to highlight is that depending on the location of the project, the construction department must meet the applicable land development regulations. Each incorporated jurisdiction may have its own, and the same applies to building permits and other regulatory agencies having jurisdiction. Therefore, in our work, we're constantly dealing with a multiplicity of agencies and regulatory requirements. It should come then as no surprise that we do find value in being under county's regulations, something to keep in mind every time we discuss annexation considerations. With that in mind, this slide provides a summary of the current delivery methods being used by the 5 construction departments. As you will see, not all methods are used by all departments. It is truly a function of each department's mission and the type of projects they are handling. Let us review each method in detail. In deciding how to present the information, we needed to select a graphic vehicle that will allow us to convey critical aspects of project delivery. We hope that this visual representation will facilitate comparison of the different delivery methods. Before proceeding to discuss each one of them, we would like to point out several elements that might be worth watching or keeping an eye on as we transition from one slide to the next. Note that we have used a purple arrow to represent the evolution of design services into construction administration, and a blue arrow to represent the evolution of construction services. Both arrows lead to project completion. However, their starting points will differ depending on the project delivery method. Note as well that we have used a dotted line to identify the point in time where the contract price is fixed. This will be relevant as we consider change orders and time extensions. First in line is hard bid, sometimes referred to as design bid build as well. This is a project delivery method that is used by all 5 construction departments. Note that the process starts with the design purple arrow through a procurement process in order to select a design firm. Once the contract has been executed, the design firm, in coordination with county staff, develops a design intent report. This is a document stating in a narrative way the scope of the design, and once the same is complete, the design team will proceed to develop drawings. Note the multiple steps included. At each step, the design team is providing a set of drawings and county staff is reviewing and providing comments. This is an iterative process until a final set of 100% completed drawings is achieved. Each construction department handles the iterative process a bit differently. For example, FDO does schematic drawings, 50%, 95%, and 100% construction drawings, while engineering does 35%, 50%, and 100% construction drawings. Slightly different approach, same end result. Depending on the type of project, while design is underway, a parallel process for right-of-way acquisition might be occurring as well. Once the 100% construction drawings are delivered by the design team, the permitting process commences. Revisions and comments by permitting agencies are the norm. They do occur. And as a result, revisions to the drawings might be required and resubmissions as well. Once all permitting comments are addressed, the permitting agency will approve the drawings. At this point is where the procurement for construction services can begin. Note where the blue construction arrow commences in relation to the purple design arrow. The procurement process for construction services ends with contract award by this board. And here, note the yellow dotted line. This is the point in time when the contract price is fixed and can only be modified through approved change orders. Before this point, what we had, along with our consultants, were estimates based on the design documents available. As can be expected, as the design is refined, the estimates are as well. Nonetheless, again, up to this point, what we are working with is this, estimates based on the drawings available at the time. Our second project delivery method is annual trade contracts, also known as pre-qualification contracts. This is a project delivery method that currently is only used by FDO. On the design side, the path is exactly the same as the one under the hard bid delivery method. Therefore, I will not repeat the overview. The big difference under this project delivery method is that the pre-qualification is ongoing. We have a universe of contractors with which the county holds contracts, and when design is complete, staff has the ability to bid out the project amongst those that are already pre-qualified.
Ms. Colazzo?
Yeah.
Wow, you speak so quickly. And very articulate. Thank you so much. What I want to be able to do is to be able to finish what your presentation is by 11:30, but to be able to have time for any questions or comments by the commissioners. And right now, there is a question by one of the commissioners. So if you don't mind, may I have an interruption of your staff report? And I want everyone to know that we have a very, very excellent report that you're reviewing right now. All of us have it right here. I believe it's over 20 pages. So I thank you very much, and if I may recognize at this time Commissioner Baxter. Thank you, Ms. Colazzo.
Thank you, Mayor. You had said a couple things, and yes, you speak quickly. So it had brought up a question that I had been curious about for some time now. We have a lot of projects going on in the county with such a large area, so I can't even imagine what an amazing job you guys do down there and getting things done and out for us and keeping 7 of us happy. But I do want to know how many of our projects have been completed approximately percentage-wise on time?
That is a statistic I do not have on hand. I don't know if my colleagues have for their departments.
The board could get that information. I think that could be very useful. And how many of those on budget, have time and budget has actually been completed and did it need an increase of either? So separately and together, if you wouldn't mind. And then one of the last things, which is a little off topic, but it is a workshop, Mayor, is I've been wanting to know, because we keep hearing about time for people to get paid after the completion of a job. So what are the times that it's taking for them to get their payments, whether that's subcontractors, contractors, all of the above? That'd be amazing. Thank you.
We will circle back with those answers.
Ms. Colazzo, probably would be acceptable to my colleagues if you could review the questions that were posed by Commissioner Baxter and then send the answers to all of us.
Not a problem.
By email, and that would be proper. Are there any other questions or comments by members of the board at this time? Ms. Baker, you're recognized.
I just want to highlight the fact that we will footnote this issue, but we're all, not just the public sector, but the private sector as well. All projects have exceeded, if they were planned for prior to COVID, have exceeded those dollar amounts, and we have had to adjust. In addition, there are product issues that have been impacted as well. And it's just not Palm Beach County, it is just construction in general. So we will footnote that. We can give you history prior to COVID, but we can also give you what is the new norm now after 2020 and 2021. So I just want to go on record as saying that.
Very good, and that'll include that as well. Appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
Follow-up, Mayor?
Commissioner Baxter?
Yes, thank you. So I guess then that would lead me to how much have we gone over in time and money? If all of them have gone over, I'd really love to know that answer as well, please. And if we could, as a board, all of us, please send it to all of us, get those answers. That could be extremely helpful going forward. Now, Administrator Baker, would it also affect our ability to pay contractors?
No, that would not. There is a statute that gives us the maximum amount of time that we must pay our contractors. I have modified the way that we pay because I don't want it held up for one simple thing. So everything, the invoice comes in, if the appropriate documentation is attached, it gets processed as soon as we possibly can within that time frame. There are times we will pull certain items out because the appropriate backup is not included, process partially what is documented, send it through to the clerk's office to pay the bill. And then they have to come back with the appropriate documentation. So, no, it does not.
So I guess, again, just looking at average time from the time of completion, we get an invoice of that being paid, could be extremely helpful. And what is the maximum allowed per Florida statute?
Ms. Colazzo, let me help you out a
60?
little bit. You're an attorney.
45.
Why don't you give us the Florida statute when you send your review to all of us?
I
The
wanna
Florida
say it's
statute,
45.
and that would include, and copy the statute for us. I'm sure it's
In the email to be sent with the response?
absolutely,
Perfect.
because I think that, as Ms. Baker pointed out, this is per Florida statute. So we should know, copy us with the statute, so that'll give us the limitations of payment for subcontractors.
That'd be amazing. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments by the board before we proceed? Very good. And listen, if you need to go to 1:30, that's fine with us, too. So
Understood.
it's up to you. I don't want you to minimize the importance of your, go right ahead.
Okay.
Go right
so
ahead.
Take
Thank
it
you,
a
Ms.
little bit
Scott.
slower then, and.
No, it's
and
okay. It's just, I don't
No,
want
no,
you
she went to the David
compromise.
Rick School of Presenting there.
The Rich School, I like that. David Rich.
So I'm gonna then retake where we were, which was slide 18. We were talking about, we had just discussed Harbid, and we were transitioning into annual trade contracts. And I had shared with the board that I did not intend to repeat the overview for the design error, because it is exactly the same that we just discussed for Harbids. The big difference under this project delivery method is that pre-qualification is ongoing. We have a universe of contractors with which the county holds contracts, and when design is complete, staff bids out the project amongst those already pre-qualified. This reduces procurement time as the qualifications of the contractors have already been evaluated. Therefore, the procurement process becomes a matter of determining which contractor is the lowest responsible bidder. Once this is done, we move forward with recommending contract award to this board, and contract award takes the form of work orders or contract amendments, depending on the base contract that we're working with. Once this board approves, the contract price is fixed and can only be modified to approve change orders. And now here, note the yellow dotted line. Once again, before this point, all we had were estimates. Final price comes with bidding of the work. What precedes then begs the question, in Harbid and annual trade contracts, what are the contractually allowable reasons for an increase in contract price? The options are limited to owner-initiated additions, permitting agency requirements, different site conditions, and errors and omissions in the construction drawings, although the contractor still carries responsibility of reviewing at the time of bidding. Then if we ask a similar question, but now in regards to time, what are the reasons that will allow for an extension in the contract time? Here, we're limited to owner-initiated additions if we have an impact on the critical path, owner-related stop of work, force majeure, weather-related delays above those that are considered by the contract, and manufacturer and chain and supply delays outside the contractor's control. Unallowable delays, as this board notes, result in liquidated damages. Examples are usually the best way of putting context to information. Projects that FDO has undertaken as hard bids or annual trade contracts include the Ocean Inlet Park Marina replacement, the Schiller replacement at Hagen Branch Library, and the Duncan Paget septic tank replacement system, as well as the Vista Center's breezeway structural repairs.
Projects where the Department of Airports has issued hard bids include a project to replace terminal flooring, an airfield lighting control system, and a public address system. This method is generally only used by us when the project scope is well-defined.
And so for engineering, we had 3 road projects. I'll just quickly go through those. Heather Hill, Carabine Boulevard to Billy Line Way, about 1.6 miles. Took 500 years to complete, and had a lot of right-of-way issues. That's what took us so long. The notice to proceed issued January 21st and cost $6.5 million to complete. The next one, Camino Real, milling resurfacing, design started in February 2016, took 4 years to complete. We also had a lot of utility issues with P&L. It took us 3 years to coordinate that. We started the work in February 2022. Construction cost $1.2 million, took 5 months. And the last one, Prairie Ridge Road, over the Lakewood Drainage to LA Canal, took 3 years to complete for the design. And then we started the project 2020, about $1 million, and took 10 months to complete. And I'll transition to Mr. Ali, to Deb.
Actually, this one's mine. I'll take the second
Yes, I'll take
bullet
Deb, yeah.
on this slide. And the first example of a hard bid project by is when we made necessary repairs and Americans with Disabilities Act accessibility improvements to the public use facilities at the Royal Palm Beach Pines natural area. The old infrastructure was constructed in 1998, and it was the first formal public use facilities constructed within the county's natural area system. The total project cost was $659,000, of which $162,000 was state grant funded. The project removed and replaced the boardwalk and other public use facilities on that site. The next example, Sawfish Island, was a $1.35 million project that included just over $1 million, or 77%, in state funding on a former spoil site used by the Florida Inland Navigation District. The project created 6 acres of mangrove habitat, and as well as other types of habitat, a kayak paddling channel, a landing area with an informational kiosk, and other recreational access facilities. And additionally, related to this project, 17,500 cubic yards of material or sand excavated from the project was then used to build islands and restore critical habitat in Lake Worth Lagoon at Tarpon Cove. So there was another cost savings to a different project. And the last project shown was built in cooperation with Parks and Recreation, and it consisted of 115 feet of 30-inch steel casing that was installed under A1A. And this casing allows the pipe associated with regular maintenance dredging of the South Lake Worth Inlet sand trap to be routed directly to the beach under A1A instead of through areas of the park that are heavily used by the public. This improves the safety and public use of the park and reduces costs of the periodic dredging operations with that improved efficiency. That total project cost was $400,000, with a quarter of that, 25%, funded by the state of Florida. Ali?
Thank you. For water utilities, we got 3 projects on the list. They're all between $7 to $10 million worth of the projects. The very first one, the Western Region Wastewater Treatment Facility, is the Pahokee Wastewater Facility. We're improving the existing wastewater facility with the help of a state. We did receive $2.7 million of grant money for that project. The second one is the water main improvements with the drinking water system in city of Bellevue Lake. It's in construction right now. It's moving ahead, no problems. And the last one is the Lucerne Lake valve replacement. This is a project that we are replacing the valves that are 50 years or older, that we need them for the emergency times that we need to shut down the system, part of the system.
Construction manager at risk is our next project delivery method, and it's one that is currently only used by airports and FDO. On the design side, the path is exactly the same as the one that we have been discussing so far, so I will not repeat it. The difference under this project delivery method is on the blue construction services arrow. Note where the same commences. We start procurement of the CMR firm in the early stages of design services. When the CMR contract first comes to this board, the construction cost has not been established. The CMR is initially engaged to provide pre-construction services only. In providing pre-construction services, the CMR is required to work hand in hand with the design team and county staff, providing feedback to better refine the design drawings and advise on construction delivery methods. This is, again, an iterative process. Iterative process as the design team produces more refined sets of drawings, the CMR firm is providing updated estimates. Once the drawings reach 95% completion, the CMR initiates trade bidding, which leads then to a guaranteed maximum price based on 100% approved drawings. Following trade bidding, the CMR will prepare the guaranteed maximum price proposal, which we will review. If recommended, the same is brought for approval by the board. And now here, note once again the yellow dotted line. Once the board approves the GMP, the contract price can only be modified through change orders. In CMR contracts, then the question becomes, what are the reasons that allow for an increase in contract price? The options are limited to owner-initiated additions, permitting agency requirements, deferring site conditions, errors and omissions in construction drawings, and although, once again, the CMR still carries responsibility for review at the time of pre-construction services. Different to harbid and annual trade contracts, CMR contracts usually include a CM contingency. However, the same can only be used by the CMR in the event of unforeseen site conditions, scope gap, subcontractor buyout reconciliation, subcontractor default. In CMR contracts, then, what are the allowable reasons for an increase in the contract price? The same that we have discussed for the other delivery methods. Owner-initiated additions if we have an impact on the critical path, or owner orders stop of work, force majeure, weather-related delays above the contract established threshold, and manufacturing and supply chain delays outside the contractor's control. Unallowable delays, just like before, result in liquidated damages. And then examples, once again, of what projects we have completed or undertaken as CMR contracts. For FDO, we have Palm Trend South, the Supervisor of Elections Production Facility, the PBSO headquarters renovation, and the 2300 Vista Center expansion, which we are in the process of designing right now.
And due to our relatively small staff, the construction manager at risk is one of the primary methods used by the Department of Airports for complex projects. Projects include the Concourse B expansion project, the switchgear replacement project, construction of the aircraft rescue and firefighting building, and campus-wide terminal improvements, which includes the replacement of the skylight in the main terminal.
So, Mayor, before I transition to the next construction method, I know we have a hard stop at 1:30. Should I stop, or should we stop or continue?
If I could suggest something, that you come back at 1:30, enjoy your lunch. But at that time, what I would like to hear from the staff report is recommendations, and I'm reading this, so I better put them on. Recommendations as to alternate delivery methods that could be considered to accelerate and or attain more efficient project delivery. That is what I want to hear at the 1:30 break, after our 1:30 break. And in the meantime, I'm sure that my colleagues will be reading profusely this, this report that you have submitted to us. I appreciate the speed and allowing us to break at 11:30. And I'll see you back at, if there's no other concerns at this time, I'll see you back at 1:30. Thank you very much.
This is PBC TV, your channel for county programs and services. Join us as we celebrate improvements to communities throughout Palm Beach County, including groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, new services, dedications, and more. This is PBC TV Presents.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to the site of PopStroke, West Palm Beach. My name is Tim Glida. I have the pleasure and honor of working for PopStroke, and we are so excited to be here this morning. It's been a long time coming to get a property here in West Palm Beach, close to home. And I would just like to kick things off this morning and welcome Laura Beebe, the Director of Airports, up.
Good morning and welcome to the groundbreaking for PopStroke at the Palm Beach International Airport. I'd like to thank the PopStroke team for their partnership and for making their flagship location, the Palm Beach International Airport. I know our nearly 8 million passengers in the surrounding community is going to love the PopStroke location here at the Palm Beach International Airport. I'd also like to thank our Board of County Commissioners for supporting this project, and I'd like to thank Vice Mayor Marino and Commissioner Weiss for attending this morning. I know they have a very busy schedule. I'd also like to take the time to introduce Vice Mayor Marino, who knows a little bit about golf.
And I'm not this tall. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I'm not going to tell you what PopStroke is because I think the majority of you that are here are from PopStroke. So I don't have to tell you what you do. I just want to say thank you from the county for being here, for investing your dollars here, for saying this is a space you wanted to be in, for being actually headquartered in Jupiter. So we, and me as a golfer, a longtime golfer, actually, I'd like to say thank you to the Palm Beach County Sports Hall of Fame. I got inducted last night for golf. And, you know, golf, I said last night that golf is what brought me to everything that I do. And having a golf facility here, it's obviously next to another golf facility, next to the airport. It gives people an opportunity to really learn a little bit more about our county too, and just making it easy for people to move around and get from here to the airport and vice versa. You know, we're keeping their dollars here, and we're giving them something to do. And so when they have their friends come and pick them up, they can stop here before they go to do the next thing that they want to do. So thank you to PopStroke for working with the county, investing your dollars here. I'm sure you'll see a return on your investment because that's why you're doing it, right? We love this public-private partnership. It's always important when government can partner with private business to do something that everybody can enjoy. So with that, I'm going to bring up our commissioner, used to be vice mayor, used to be mayor, Greg Weiss. We are in his district. I'm just the professional athlete that's a commissioner, but we'll bring you your district commissioner over now.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Vice Mayor. And what an honor it is to be with you this morning to celebrate this groundbreaking of PopStroke right here in West Palm Beach. You know, I was mentioning earlier, this is going to be great for me because I live less than a mile from here. So this is going to be a place that I can come and bring my friends and we can get together and have a good time. But, you know, in thinking about this facility and what it's going to offer not only to our visitors, but to our community, because let's face it, I certainly, right now, I can't go and hit balls over there, but I could certainly putt even with one hand, and that it makes it available. This is something that's available to everybody. So whether you're young, you're older, whether you're, you know, totally disabled or abled, you're going to have an opportunity to come here and have a good time with your friends and your family. So thank you, PopStroke, for investing in our community. You're making a difference, and I know you're going to be hosting lots of different events, and I'm sure a lot of them are going to be philanthropic as well, because that's what you guys do each and every day. So thanks for investing in Palm Beach County. We know this is the best place
for anybody to live, work, or play. So we're inviting the rest of the world to enjoy your wonderful facility. So let's have a wonderful morning and let's get this party started.
We're really excited to be here. And at first, I want to thank Commissioner Weiss, Vice Mayor Marino, Laura Beebe, Ray Walter. You guys have been incredibly supportive of us. This has been a long journey I think this RFP came about maybe 3 to 4 years ago. And we had some delays with COVID and everything else that maybe paused it and then started back up again. It's been a lot of work from our team. It's been a lot of work from the Airport Authority. We are grateful, truly grateful to be here. I also want to thank Kelly Smallridge. Kelly's become a very good friend of mine. She's also been, in my opinion, transformative in her ability to kind of reinvent the economy here locally in West Palm Beach. From when I moved down here 11 years ago full time, this was a tourist, construction, hospitality-based economy. And you look around today, and some of my good best friends from Wall Street, largest financial firms in the world, are now here in Wall Street South, from major banks to major hedge funds, private equity firms, and Kelly has really been instrumental behind that. So great work, Kelly. And we're also obviously a major entertainment company, which is new to, I think, Palm Beach County. As everyone mentioned earlier, we're based in Jupiter, Florida. And the concept of Pop Stroke really started when I first moved down here. I started another business called Lighthouse Cove in Jupiter. And then Pop Stroke kind of derived out of that about 4 years ago. Within 4 years, we brought in two of the greatest partners in golf, in Tiger Woods and TaylorMade. Those are the two biggest brands, in my opinion, in the game of golf internationally. And for those of you that don't know what Pop Stroke is, at the end of the day, we really, our business model is centered around bringing something here for everybody to enjoy, regardless of your age, your skill, or your background. That is what really drives me every day. That's what drives our team. We're so much more than just the golf experience. The golf experience is great, but we also have a scratch kitchen. We also have backyard games like cornhole, foosball, ping pong. We also have a children's playground. 24 flavors of incredible ice cream, which is locally here from the Ice Cream Club in Boynton Beach. Craft beers, craft cocktails, 4 on-site bars, mobile app delivery of drinks and cocktails anywhere on the property. And then we have at this location, that was mentioned earlier, this is our flagship location because Palm Beach County is near and dear to all of us here at Pop Stroke. We live here, we play here, we work here. So we're gonna have a rooftop pool with cabanas, a sushi lounge, and there's going to literally be something here for everybody. We like to connect people across generations. That's a great thing about putting. Everybody can do it. It's not intimidating. And it is a wonderful place to come and enjoy, whether you're 5 years old, 90 years old, or everyone in between. As was mentioned by Vice Mayor Marino, 8 million visitors, and Laura, I'm sorry, I said this earlier, 8 million visitors visit the Palm Beach Airport every single year. When you think about the ability for us to connect with the tourists, the business climate here, the business clientele here, and then obviously the retirees, the young families, it really is truly going to be a great asset and amenity for this great community. I personally am grateful to live here. This, in my opinion, is the greatest place in the world to raise a family. It's also the greatest place in the world from a business climate standpoint. Having moved from New York City, I can tell you firsthand that this is a tremendous place to do business, tremendous place to raise a family, and a tremendous place to play. So I would love to welcome all of you back here in mid-December, right before the holidays. Maybe bring your bathing suit and your putter. But we're really excited, and thank you all again for your tremendous support. We're going to make you all proud of Pop Stroke and of this great community that we all live in. So thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for watching PBC TV Presents. For more information on county programs and services, please visit pbcgov.com. This has been a presentation of your Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners.
Welcome to Inside PBC, where we highlight what's going on inside Palm Beach County. As hurricane season is set to arrive on June 1st, forecasters caution there are many forces in play, including really warm waters. So experts are urging preparation for what may be the most turbulent hurricane season in modern history. And from forecast to action is the theme for this 38th Governor's Hurricane Conference at the Palm Beach County Convention Center. Preparation is one of the reasons why roughly 2,700 emergency management staff from local, state, national, and even the international level are here. Plus, responders from all across Florida come to not only share in the latest technology, but also lessons learned with each storm, including tornadoes. And officials want to ensure residents, whether new or seasoned, to remember Palm Beach County may not have had a direct hit in several years, but it's a matter of when and not if. There is no time to let our guard down and become complacent. If evacuation orders are issued, it is time to know your zone and leave if you fall within a compromised region. June 1st is the start of the hurricane season, and it doesn't end until November 30th. So now is the time to make a plan, build a kit, be informed, and get involved. Keep up on your lawn maintenance and make sure you have your supplies ready. In Florida, the Disaster Preparedness Sales Tax-Free holiday starts on June 1st, runs through the 14th, with a second holiday coming up in August. So stock up on batteries, power banks, pet food, portable generators, and all sorts of other things. For all of this and more, visit our website at pbcgov.com.
This is PBC TV, your channel for county programs and services. Join us as we celebrate improvements to communities throughout Palm Beach County, including groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, new services, dedications, and more. This is PBC TV Presents.
So, welcome. If you do not know me, I am Diana Stanley, and I am the CEO here at the Lord's Place. And we have waited for this day for 5 years. Annie Noble sent me a picture this morning of she and I with thumbs up when my wonderful board of directors on September 25th, 2019 said yes to knocking down the old building and doing a capital campaign. 5 years later, here we stand. This is an amazing journey, and we're so proud to be part of this journey with all of you. For those of you that do not know, we have been open since June, and so it has been amazing to see how our clients have walked in here and have felt the love and the gratitude. And so even though we've been delivering services, this is the official ribbon cutting where we can come together and celebrate this historical moment for the Lord's Place. And as I look around, I think of all of you in all different capacities. So whether you wrote a check, made a donation, whether you sat with me, the John Van Arnams in the world and the Jeff Koons, and dreamed of this, whether you were a partner in our delivery of services, a board member, a staff, a volunteer, every single one of you has a piece in this project. And for that, I am overwhelmed with gratitude. So thank you. Thank you. So without any further ado, we also know I run a very tight tight ship here, so we gotta cut this ribbon so that you can do self-directed tours. That's what we decided to do today since we have so many people. So once this ribbon's cut, you can go upstairs, downstairs, all around. There will be people stationed to tell you what you're looking at. So if you have not had the chance to visit this amazing facility, feel free to do so. You know, you can only have a journey when you have people like the person I'm about ready to introduce to you that has been my right hand, who has believed in this vision way before probably anybody else did. And as the chair of our board, allowed our board to dream as big as we all dream as a staff. And so I am so proud and so grateful to be able to introduce to you Corny Thornburg, the chair of our board.
Good morning, everybody. Wow. Look at all these people. I am so excited. And on behalf of the Board of Directors, welcome home. We're here. So today, we officially mark the opening of the Fortin Family Campus here at 2808 Australian. And this is not simply a building or a dwelling, not even a house for those who seek shelter, because a house is only a home when it offers the warmth and love that turns its walls and rooms into a place of comfort and belonging. The Home for Good campaign built this home for those who seek to embark on a journey of change, transformation, and acceptance. It was the collective will of all the people in this room put to action that built it. So may those who cross this threshold find recognition for their true selves, find safety and hope, and be surrounded by people who offer love and understanding. Amen. I am so pleased to introduce the person who, through the Mary Alice Fortin Foundation, possessed the vision and offered our lead gift for what we now call home, Mayor Donnie Moore.
Well, I see this wonderful turnout this morning, and it really is overwhelming from when we stood here in a dirt pile, which seems not so long ago. It's my honor and privilege to be the mayor of the town of Palm Beach, but also it's my honor and privilege to be the president of the Mary Alice Fortin Foundation, and for that I need to thank my mother, Leslie Smith. And we also have another board member, Walter Ross, with us here. And it's through their vision that allows me to stand here and support this amazing, amazing place. West Palm Beach and our community is so lucky to have Diana Stanley. And people like all of you who care so deeply about those less fortunate in our community. So on behalf of the foundation, I'd like to thank all of you for being here, and Diana and the Lord's Place for making this vision come to life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to take a moment before we have other guests come up just to say a few thank yous. It would be remiss if I didn't. If you have not had the food today, it's delicious, so please join me in thanking those amazing chefs and the cooks back there, Beth and Joshua, led by Chef Jim. And I also want to do a really special recognition to Annie Noble. Is she here? Annie. Annie, there she is. Make no mistake about it, you have to have a partner in crime. She's my partner in crime, and together we were able to bring this to fruition, and it has been just a privilege to have her in this journey with me. So thank you, Annie. The staff, all these folks, see the staff back here? This is who makes it happen. The Lord's Place is blessed with the greatest, hardest working individuals who are so committed to this mission, and I am just so honored and privileged to be by their side every day. So thank you to them. And of course our board. We have so many board members here. If you could just lift your hands so you let everybody know who's former board members, anybody that's been with us. There we go. You know, I tell people all the time that a nonprofit is only as good as their board. And I am so blessed to have this board that continues to dream big with us. So thank you to our board for their vision as well. And now what I'd like to do is introduce to you Commissioner Kathleen Ward, who's going to join us up here to say a few words on behalf of the city of West Palm Beach.
Good morning, everyone. In true millennial form, I have my notes on my phone, so bear with me. I'm so glad to see everyone here celebrating this wonderful and exciting new chapter for this organization, the Lord's Place, an organization which has been operating for 40 years in this area. And overall, they're working to solve a very complex problem we're facing all over this country. And years ago, I was meeting in the old facility, and Diana was there talking about the Lord's Place with a group of young leaders in the community and asked us, what do all homeless people have in common? And we kind of paused, and it's a very simple answer. They don't have homes. And so how do we address that? By providing varying types of services which address a wide variety of needs, provide supportive housing, employment and training, reentry programs, clinical and care coordination, and social enterprise, all things that the Lord's Place does, and does very well. We still have a lot to work to do, and it takes all levels of government, a lot of funding, and cooperation and participation from the community, which today I see that we have that, and I'm so very proud of that. I'm proud to have the Lord's Place in my district, and I'm optimistic of the progress that we are all going to make. Thank you. Thank you.
I do want to invite the one and only Mac Bernard up here, Commissioner Bernard, who has been the champion for homelessness in Palm Beach County year after year, and we're so grateful that you're here.
Thank you very much, Diane. My name is Mac Bernard, County Commissioner for District 7. This morning I had the opportunity to speak to Arlene Griffith. She works with the Criminal Justice Commission, and she told me that her boss says that sometimes she's a rule breaker. In order for us to be here today, we need rule breakers here. Because in order for us to address homelessness, we have to break the rules to provide housing for our residents. And Palm Beach County has been a partner with the Lord's Place, and we want to be a partner for years to come. And so on behalf of Palm Beach County, I want to welcome you, and we're excited to be here. And lastly, we have two people who are here that are so important to Palm Beach County, which is John Van Arnhem and Commissioner Jeff Koons. Yes. I am only speaking on their behalf because I know that their commitment to the Lord's Place and to homelessness is Palm Beach County. So thanks for being here. Congratulations.
And I could not agree more. If you don't know, the first time I met Jeff Koons and John Van Arnhem, we became somewhat friends, maybe not at that time, but we ended up being friends. And in the old kitchen, we knew we became real friends because if you don't know what the point in time count is, it's 24 hours where we go out and we count the homeless, right? That's what we do. And it was my first point in time count, and I was in a meeting prior to that where John Van Arnhem made mention that he makes the best chili ever, and I didn't even know who this guy was, and I said, oh, contraire. I make the best chili ever. And the next thing you know, the point in time count, here we are at 11 o'clock at night making chili. And we had a chili cook-off, and you don't need to say, I did win. He says, I cheated, but we did win. So that is, there he is. I did win, excuse me. Next time. There you go. So we have had many memories together in this community, and we're so very grateful for that. I did see Bobby Powell came in. Bobby, you want to come up and say a few words? Here is our one and only state senator that we love. Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm excited. I see all the people here. Just the fact that what you're doing here, we've had a chance and opportunity, myself and my staff, several times to see the work of the Lord's Place and to experience up close what the Lord's Place does as we, for a moment in time, shared office space right next door. What I can tell you in Tallahassee and throughout this state, the legislature and my colleagues here in Palm Beach County are dedicated and disciplined to ending homelessness. I had a conversation with someone this week. We are going to try to implement strategies that will ultimately end homelessness. And we will work with the Lord's Place and Diana Stanley and her entire team. I've seen so many people here who are part of your team that get the job done here in Palm Beach County, and we are committed to working with you, the entire legislature and the Palm Beach County delegation, those of us who are Democrat and Republicans, because this is not a partisan issue. This is a people issue. And we will get the job done. Thank you. I'm glad to see everybody this morning. And together, we can. Thank you.
All right, real quick, and then we're going to cut this ribbon. I need to also honor some people from the floor. I want to say hello to Christina Lampert is here. She's going to be joining us when we're cutting the ribbon. Thank you, Christina, Commissioner of the City. We have legal. We've got Officer Senator Bobby Powell. We have, where's Armando? City Administrator Armando, one of my favorite human beings right there. Thank you. Love Armando. We have Charlotte Wright from the Mayor's Office. We also have Christine Wright from Murray Woodward's office, who's a commissioner, and Greg Weiss. We have Virginia here. So thank you, Virginia, for being here. Absolutely. I just want to recognize a couple more people, and then we are going to have the blessing and cut this ribbon. But I would be remiss again if I did not highlight a few people that were behind the scenes that brought this building to fruition. And it all started with Toby Doothright, who's back there. So Toby was our COO at the time that we had this vision, and I cannot tell you the amount of work